Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Open Heart Brotherhood.
Welcome back to
Welcome.
the Brotherhood.
How's it going, man? How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Very much still riding a high from this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about yesterday also about your experiencing hosting a man's breathwork session. And I know that we talked a lot about diving into men's work. I mean, that was also basically the reason why we started this podcast, right? Because we both feel drawn to the masculine and masculine energy, to work with it, holding space, of course, but also for ourselves. I mean, I do that work also just to tap into my masculinity more. And to really discover parts of myself that may uh, laying down dormant in my body, and I hadn't
Mhm.
access to, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a beautiful topic to dive into about the brotherhood
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
working with man. So yeah, let's dive back into your experience. I would really love to hear more about it. Yesterday we just briefly touched it, but yeah, how was your experience? And
Yeah, I mean, the experience overall was incredible. This was actually my first time being in an all men's container. The majority
mm,
of the containers that I've always been in the past have been co-ed or the majority feminine. And so
right.
this particular day event, so it was an all day event from 8 a.m. until almost midnight. And it was put on by my brother-in-law, Greg Anderson, which shout out to him. The container that he cultivated was absolutely incredible.
Mm,
Um, and but he is of a very different background than myself. He's a
mm,
ex-Army Ranger and an ex-U.S. Marshal, ex-Seattle police officer, and now runs a jiu-jitsu gym called Electric North Jiu-Jitsu here in Lake Stevens, Washington. And so
nice.
we actually started the day for 2 hours rolling on the mats doing jujitsu. My first time ever experiencing jujitsu, and here
Oh
days
man.
later, I'm still sore in muscles that I had no idea actually existed in my body, and so that was like the first beginnings of facilitating this concept of brotherhood. And like
Mm,
he
mm,
opened it up in a really beautiful way where we were all sitting in circle and, we all kind of shared our intentions on why we were there for the day. And he really spoke to sealing the container in a way. And what I mean by that is sealing the container to where we didn't talk about politics. We didn't talk about religion. We didn't
mm,
talk
mm,
about, sports or the weather or, what
mm,
we had plans on doing. We
mm,
showed up there to do the work from the very first minute we entered that building. This really speaks to the importance of intention when it comes to setting a container. And so him and I had been talking about this particular container for about a month leading up to this. It was an idea that him and my sister had and executed it really quickly.
mm.
So the idea was getting men together, and the container was set at 10 men. It was super intimate. It
Yeah.
wasn't a big container, and he never wanted it to be a big container because he really believed in keeping the group small so that we could have interactions with one another. So by the end of that 2 hours, like each and every one of us had an opportunity to spend time on the mats with the other person. And
Mm,
so it was like immediately was building this container of brotherhood of like, we're there together. We're there
yeah.
doing the work together. We're there struggling together. We're there sweating together. We're there actually trying something because several of the guys had a lot of experience in jujitsu, and several of the guys, myself included, had never done jujitsu before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I had this preconceived notion that if I did jujitsu, that it would mean that I'm basically going to spend the majority of my time getting my ass kicked. And In a way, that was partially true. But I rolled with my brother-in-law, who is a multi-black belt, and he went super easy on me because he was helping me to learn. He was helping me to grow. He was helping me to expand by like helping to push me in a way that it's like he didn't give it away, but at the same time he didn't just immediately like put me on my back and like show like his true ability as being able to be not only
Yeah,
a teacher and a mentor but also an athlete on the mat. And so to like have all of these men meet each other where they're at immediately
yeah,
put me into alignment with what we teach with somatic breathwork, meeting
yeah,
someone where they're at.
yeah. That's amazing. I was just while you were sharing that while you were rolling with your brother-in-law, and you felt like, oh, actually, he's um, he's helping me to grow. He's creating space for me also to participate, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is a very um, typical and normal um, behavior in man when we are in a team together, right? I mean, just imagine also, you know, I always love to connect it with like ancient times and like the hunter gatherer times. Like when you were in a tribe, when you were in a group of men, of course, the one who has more knowledge wants to teach it to the team, right? And it's not about competition. It's not about like, oh, I want to dominate over you. No, it's about like I create space so that we all gain this knowledge, so that we all can be more effective in hunting, right?
Yeah.
And I think especially those activities like jiu-jitsu, martial arts. I think this is so in our times now very very powerful for man to have this feeling of, oh, it's not competition, man versus man. I mean, it can be competitive, absolutely. I mean, it's a sport, but if you are just rolling with each other, if you're in the training, then it's more about like really being together and feel each other and having this sense of brotherhood. And I totally resonate with that. I mean, my I shared with you that my son
Mm-hmm.
started jujitsu, so every week I'm with him going to the jiu-jitsu classes, and it's so sweet to see how the children, like especially the boys, really learn discipline. um First of all, that's really really good to be like to understand like also the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, despite from the somatic aspect, also to connect with the body, it's about connection with the other teammates, like with the other children, and also with the trainer, right? He's like the teacher, and he shows he's like this elder who is has having the wisdom to teach the kids. And yeah, I really think this is a beautiful thing to to touch in this masculine energy and touch into what it means to be in a physical activation, like in a physical act with another man, but it's not about necessarily about just about competition. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
I want to dominate. On the other, I mean, on the other side, yes, it is also domination. And it's like this play, but it's a play. So it's like, okay, let's test out. Let's see. Yeah, absolutely. So you were rolling there with the guys, and then you embedded also somatic breathwork. And was it afterwards or
Yeah,
before?
it was immediately afterwards. And
Wow, how
so
was that?
we took a break, gave an opportunity for some of the guys to either shower off or jump in the cold plunge
Yeah,
and like get changed out of their sweaty clothes and into something a little bit more comfortable. Gave me time to set up my sound system and kind of get myself set and prepared for like switching gears and moving into that container. And then again, we all sat down in circle and I just spoke to utilizing. And what was really interesting is that Greg was explaining when we were in the practice mode of jujitsu, when we were learning a couple of moves, that it's all about minimizing space.
Mm.
You want to close yourself down around the other person as much as possible. And he even, like, when he was giving a demonstration, was like pushing his hand against his arm that was against Tyler, the guy he was doing demonstrations with, body, and was like, I can't even fit my hand in here. If there's any space and I can fit my hand in here, that gives your opponent the opportunity to utilize that space against you. Whereas in breathwork, it's about creating space.
Right.
It's about
Yes.
creating space within yourself. It's about creating space with your emotions, with your physical sensations. And so I utilized this like polar opposite in speaking to the fact that we all have these masculine and feminine energies within us. It's like these two
Mm.
poles that have to dance with one another. And I brought up the idea of the Jungian philosophy that like within the man, in the unconscious mind, is the anima. It's this feminine aspect that is the subconscious. And within women, their subconscious is the masculine aspect. It's that shadow side. So I just spoke to that, we have to learn to be able to integrate both of these parts of ourselves in order to show up as our truest self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I guided them through the somatic awareness practice that we guided everyone through on the last episode, and utilized that to explain the first 3 rounds of clearing. And that's how I set up the theme for the session, is that the first round was all about dealing with the physical sensations in the body. Where is their
Mm.
stress? Where is their pain? Where is their tension? Where is their pressure? And then using the breath to move that through and create space.
Yeah.
Then in the second round, we tapped into the emotions. And again,
Mm.
used the breath as the catalyst to move those emotions through. And then in the third round, we tapped into the stories and the limiting beliefs and like to
Mm.
witness these 10 men and like, brother, these are CEOs and business owners and gym owners and ex-military and police officers and like hard guys, like guys that are very much in their masculine, and to
Mm.
witness them open up, to like at the end have Greg share and ask like who all cried, and to see every single man raise their hand. And then he asked, are you all embarrassed? And everyone lowered their hands.
Mm.
To like witness men willing to do the work, willing to face their emotions, willing to feel their emotions, willing to go to the depths of themselves and truly meet themselves, to
Yeah.
then connect to the man that they actually want to be and how they want to show up in the world, and to bring in love and gratitude. And at the end, have several of them share it was the most transformative experience that they've ever had in their life.
Mm.
Was
Mm.
like, it choked me up at the end of it to just hear their shares and to hear like that this is what brotherhood is meant to be about.
Yeah.
It's meant
Yeah.
to be about giving each other permission to fully go there, to feel it all, to express it all, to
Mm.
actually do the work so we can create profound change within our lives that then ripples out into the lives of every single person we touch.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It is so powerful to see that and to witness that. And I mean, I shared with you when I was hosting my brotherhood circle, and I did the somatic breathwork sessions with them too. And there's a very specific energy which is so powerful, which I haven't witnessed before. Usually, I have mixed groups, or a lot of predominantly women are drawn to somatic to come to my sessions. Um, Men have a harder time to commit to this kind of work. Sometimes it's right. It's about going into the emotions, which is for a lot of men very hard to touch. And it's not just that they are scared. It's just like mm, a lot of men just don't know how to access that. I mean, due to social conditioning, due to how we grew up. I mean, this is absolutely something that is a huge blockage in a lot of men, me included. I mean, I'm very, I can very easily enter um, sadness, and I can very easily enter into love, but I have a hard time to access into anger because I was not allowed to be angry. And so all these things are suppressed. Yeah, I had men in my classes, and when I was asking, come up with the one word intention, like what are you feeling, and they're like, I don't know, I don't know what to feel, I don't know how. So this is really an interesting group dynamic when there are just men. I feel that when there's like a men's group doing this work, breath work, it is more powerful because the energy is so high, the energy is so strong with this masculine that can literally penetrate through layers
Hmm.
and support. Like everyone is supporting each other in this group. And in my case, when I was hosting a session, we went deep into anger. Like a lot of men had expressed anger, um, which in one of like we have two episodes around anger, and we talked about anger is very close also to power.
Hmm.
It is a very powerful experience, right? And emotion, and so all of them were first into this rage and frustration and like shouting it out and hitting and screaming, and then crying came. Yeah, like it was just opened the pressure, so sadness came up, but then all of a sudden also power came in. Yeah, like I know one of my friends who attended this brotherhood session, and he was really in his power. He stood up like and was really in a very animalistic, archaic, masculine energy, and was breathing very strongly and powerful. Yeah, like it was really beautiful to watch him. And he's a very soft, a very warm-hearted man. But to see him in this awoken masculine, reawoken masculine energy was really powerful and really beautiful. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting what these dynamics are doing to men when men are together in a group. And I agree. I think this is so much needed in our times, and I think this is something that man definitely can benefit so much from. And I mean, also talking about feeling isolated, feeling lonely, feeling not being part of a group that is there for you, that is listening to you. I mean, we have friends, yeah, and a lot of my friends also share, like, yeah, of course, I have a lot of friends, but then it's about let's have a beer, let's
Hmm.
hang out, let's just numb ourselves, let's watch a game on TV or something like that, you know. But to be together in like together with an intention, as you said that beautifully, like coming together with an intention to go in to show yourself vulnerable, also to touch what it means to be a man, to touch this part of you, what it means to have a brother.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be my best friend, it doesn't need to be someone I relate to, it could be literally a stranger. And still just to say, okay, we both are men and we have the same intention, and that makes us brothers. And I think this is such a beautiful thing, such a beautiful way to also connect deeper with men and see men not just as competitors, not as someone who wants to dominate over you and you have to dominate first, right? Like this game of in the US, the history of the cowboys, and like they're dueling themselves, like who's faster, coming from this time, like I have to be faster than my opponent, otherwise I'll get shot. Um, but to honor also other men and see them like as brothers, I think this is helping us to open our heart,
Yeah.
which comes to our open heart brotherhood back to our name.
Yeah. Absolutely. And That was the cool thing to witness. Like after the breathwork session, we do as we always do and have a little bit of sharing circle. And so the guys got to share some of their experiences and many of them were experiencing breathwork for the very first time. So they were really taken aback by what they
Mm.
had experienced, not realizing that was possible by just breathing. It was cool to watch them slowly unfold and come back into themselves. And then we transitioned into having lunch together, and some of the conversations that started sharing and some of the vulnerability that started coming out of people sharing around some of the stories that they encountered or some of the memories that they encountered and the realizations around that. And it was beautiful to witness this sharing, because all of a sudden you saw, and for the most part these were all strangers to one another. There were a couple of
Mm.
people who knew each other, or had been to some of the other events that Greg has put on before, but really it was like, we were creating a lot of new relationships and new connections within this circle. And to see other men be like, hey, I actually have a story really similar to that in my life too, that then creates this like unification within one another. Whereas it's like, oh, I see you because I see myself in you through the experience that you've had, and like you and I have kind of talked about this, and I think we touched on it a little bit in the first episode of like having this recognition with one another because we've actually experienced some pretty similar things throughout life, that then it's like it tightens the bond that much more.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
further that bond gets tightened, the more it is this like camaraderie of
Yeah.
where, it's like that whole concept of like brother in arms, right? Like
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
who go through traumatic experiences together are very, very interwoven with one another, very, very tight
100%.
in the bond of support, of being there for one another, like, ride or die, like we're in this
Mm.
together.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yes.
like what you touched on, like this
Mm.
powerful energy that gets created from that place, like when we meet each other in that place, the places that we were able to go, the distances we're able to achieve is so much greater than if we just choose
Mm.
to do it on our own.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is beautifully said. I think this is exactly what is missing. You know, I mean, like going with a group of brothers through some intense situations. I mean, what we and we are somehow also mimicking this with martial arts, for example. Yeah, it's also a little bit about adrenaline and fighting, and of course, this is comes from war, right? But I mean, to be in a group and experience something where we have challenges as a group, not as an individual, but as a group, and to master this challenge, is really there are not so many situations where we can do that except in sports. Yeah, I mean, playing a team sport, and then all of a sudden, like your team, these are your brothers, right? I want to win with my brothers, and if one of your teammates is shooting a goal, then you start to cry because you're so happy because it's not about just you; it's about the team, right? But I love what you touched on, like the strong bonding, because I remember when I was like, it could be a story that they had experienced, like a similar story, but or it could be something that they will experience while they are now together, like for example a retreat, right? Like what we talked about and touched upon, this idea that we have, like creating a retreat in the wilderness, in the nature, and going out for a week with a group of men, maybe backcountry hiking, like
Hmm.
without a path, just having a compass, or just go and see where we will end, right? Something like that, to create some challenges. Like I was once, that's far back in time, probably 12, 15 years ago, I was doing a sailing course. Like I got a sailing license, and so I was for this license, I needed to attend practical training for 2 weeks on a boat, on a sailing yacht, uh, with a group of men. Yeah, and we did not know each other. It was just about, okay, you are together in this boat. We were, I think, 8 people and the skipper. And we all had um, our positions that we will have to change because we were in an education, right? And after these 2 weeks, we then do an exam and got our license. And it was so interesting because this is exactly a situation that I hate. Like, I don't know people. I have a hard time to be in a closed environment. Yeah, and I mean, being on the ocean on a yacht is very, very claustrophobic. Yeah. So if there are tensions, if there are people who I don't like, I literally can't leave the space. So that was really causing a lot of stress on me. But I said, okay, I will do it. And so we went on this trip, and that was literally one of the strongest experiences regarding bonding with other men that I ever had in my life, because it was a team and we all had our positions there, like our duty to do, and we had to work against the elements, which was crazy because we went through storms, we went through really challenging paths, and we really have to work together. It was like there were situations where it was like, holy shit, if one of us is not doing his job, we all will probably end up and calling the rescue, right? So it was such a stress, so much stress and so much adrenaline that literally just bonded us.
Yeah.
And after this trip, it was like, wow, I love these men because I had trust in them. Like, no matter where we were, like, I know if the one who is responsible for the sail, he will do that. The one who is responsible for steering, he will do his job, right? And like, everyone had his part. It was so interesting to see how that works. And again, it brought me back, like, in like this vision of in these ancient times where we had to work together, being like Vikings on a boat and sailing through the oceans, and were like fighting against the elements. And I understand why men were really close, closer than with relatives,
Mm.
closer than with their family. And this is what people like soldiers are also sharing a lot of times when they're coming out of wars. Like, they have a very strong bonding with their brothers in arms because they went through these life threatening situations. Yeah. So it's interesting, to find something that is not life threatening. I don't say like we should all go to war or should do something that is putting us into danger, but challenges where we literally can work together and feel this archaic bonding of what it means to be together with brothers.
I love that you brought all of that up because it is exactly why, like, this whole day that we spent together was very intentionally created. Because
Mm.
after lunch, we left the jiu-jitsu gym and drove about 20 minutes down the road to Greg has about 30 acres that's just outside in the woods, like
Nice.
undeveloped. But on that 30 acres is a gun range. So we then spent the next, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 hours going through pistol fundamentals and shooting targets.
Mm.
And, we all stood in a line and were shooting at these targets, and he was taking us through different drills. And then we broke, and he brought out these two like barricades that were at different distances. So then we had to practice shooting from one side to shooting from the other side, and then moving up to the next target and then shooting from one side to the other side. And then we did a walking competition where it was like we paired up in our shooting groups because we were paired together, so we would kind of alternate our shooting belts. And we started off at like 14 yards and then went to like 28 yards and then went to like 40 yards and kept going further and further back until, and slowly but surely, people were being eliminated. You got 2 shots at the target at each distance, and when you missed both shots, you were out of the competition.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what was interesting is at the 40-yard mark, Greg was like, "Hey guys, remember, this is a competition. Feel free to like heckle each other or like, get into the other guy's head." That never happened.
Mm.
Instead, everyone kept cheering each other on and we'd heckle the people who like lost their two shots. Like I missed both of my shots at the 44-yard mark. And so like I was out, and I was also trying to take pictures throughout the whole event as well when I wasn't holding space to, help give them some materials for promotions and things like that. I'm like, okay, now I can just focus on shooting photos instead of shooting guns. But like to witness these guys like cheering each
Mm.
other on and like rooting for each other, and like it wasn't about competition, it felt like, ever during that day. It was about
Mm.
camaraderie. It was about like supporting one another in the
Mm.
continued expansion that we were meeting ourselves. And then after that we went on a hike and hiked down to the river. And at that point in time, I actually had to leave the event because I had some friends visiting from the East Coast out of town, and we had dinner plans that was
Mm.
previously set up before I agreed to do this event. But the rest of the group did cold plunges in the river, and then sauna, and then had dinner, and then had a big bonfire where they kind of shared about their experiences from the day, and like continued to go into the work together and diving in. And it's like we're already talking about trying to coordinate our schedules together to do another one here in the next couple of months, because it's like that that day is a
Mm.
day that will stick in every single one of our memories for the rest of our life,
Yeah.
because there were so many points of contact throughout that day where it was this like soul meeting another soul, not just a man meeting another man, but like actually witnessing beyond the roles and the responsibilities of life, and just seeing one another's like true essence and true aspect. And like
Mm.
I shared in the breath work at the end of it that like, one of the teachings from Ram Dass of like us having this like ember inside of ourselves,
Mm.
and
Mm.
this ember at one point in time in our life was this like giant flame when we were first born, and it was the flame of our soul, of like what we were meant to be here to do. And throughout life and throughout the various different encounters and things like that, like eventually for some of us that flame just turns into an ember or is just ash.
Yeah.
And this work is about like fanning that ember and getting it to spark a flame again, and then continuing to cultivate that flame more and more and more until like everyone that we encounter not only can see the light of that flame, but can feel the warmth of that flame. And they feel
Yeah.
that coming from us. And that was like my intention throughout that day of like, how can I shine my light so brightly that it gives everyone else that permission to do the same?
Mm.
And like to be able to show up in that way, to really just show up from my true essence, and like not worry about being judged for, speaking a certain way or acting a certain way, or being more embodied in the feminine or being more embodied in the masculine, but just trusting that each and every one of these brothers is going to meet me just as much as I'm willing to meet.
Beautiful. Yeah. 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 That's powerful. I think this is exactly what it is all about. It's just to find your not just authenticity, but to find your amber, as you said, like to find your spark, to find your essence, and which is unique, which is everyone has his uniqueness, his unique expression. So however we will call it, and still we are in this body, we are in this masculine body, man's body, and there I always refer to it's to a game. It's a play, right? I mean, I am here in this play of life with this body, and I'm allowed to witness through this body life. I'm allowed to perceive life through this body, and the more I'm in attunement with this body, with my essence, the more I feel aligned and can also express that. And I think this what we experience in life when we are together with men or with women, all of these are like all of these wounds that we're carrying in us are playing out in relation, right? Some have a hard time to connect with women, some have a hard time to connect with men. If you trace that back, there is a wound probably
Hmm.
which created a fracture in your essence and or in your perception of life. And so to see and to honor that and say like, okay, yes, I maybe have a hard time to connect with men, but instead of retreating, to maybe find a safe container where you slowly can touch that wound or put at least awareness onto it. I think this is the beauty of men's work and beauty of inner work in general. To say like, okay, yes, I have a hard time, I'm scared, I have anxiety about certain topics or certain relations. But instead of taking yourself away of it and taking yourself out of life, not participating in life anymore, that's the what happens if you're
Hmm.
not willing to look in it. But to say like, okay, maybe I will try to do that in a safe environment and allow myself to slowly touch that and open it and create space in it so that my awareness, my consciousness can allow this body to fully integrate again and to align. And I think again, I come back to men's work and to working with men and myself as a man. I think that this is a beautiful, beautiful time to do that, especially to work through this deep, deep wound, father wound, um, of not really connecting with your emotions, not really connecting with the sensitive part of you. And because yes, we men can show up very strong, and we can. A lot of men have no problems to be this very patriarchic, strong alpha man. But that's not what it means to be a fully integrated man. A fully integrated man means, of course, to have both energies in balance. There is no alpha. There are no lone wolves. This is not working. It's never in history have we like if you are alone in the wild, then you're dead. And now we have a lot of lone wolves running around and are proud of being called themselves like alpha or lonely wolf. No, that's not what I still. I mean, I at least believe that this is not what it's meant to. This journey, this play, this game. It's about to play with each other, and by that to experience life in its facets, in its beauty, and to really, yeah, maybe open parts of us that our ancestors couldn't,
Yeah.
you know.
It's
So
hearing you say that, it was making me kind of think back to, like, just thinking through all of the various civilizations that I've read about over the years, and it's like, yeah, really, it's when civilizations started to divide themselves and started to create this one side versus another, like that's the collapse, like Roman Empire,
mm,
right? And no longer working together for a singular mindset or a singular goal, but instead you have now multiple individuals that all have their own points and opinions on where the society should go, and that's the beginning of the end. But like this, there is one aspect of indigenous cultures where there is like this solo journey, and that's like that rite of
mm,
passage, the vision
mm,
quest,
mm,
where you do go out in nature on your own for a set
mm,
number of days, and most of the time like fasting is involved or hunting is involved, creating, you don't have any supplies, so you need to get your own food, water, shelter, all of those things, and then you come back with the wisdoms that you learned about yourself. But this, even though that part of the journey is solo, you're not doing it on your own, because you would have had tutelage from a mentor or the entirety of the tribe before you actually went on the rites of passage. And I think
Mm,
this is actually what's truly missing from our Western society is
mm,
this missing piece, this rite of passage. Like for most
yeah,
of us men, like our rite of passage was like getting a license or being able to smoke and drink or like you
yeah,
know being able to vote, you know, maybe having sex for the first time, like all of
mm,
these different points that like our Western society kind of puts on a pedestal is like these are the moments in time that actually make you a man. Of like, but where was my right of going and finding myself and who I was meant to be within this world without
yeah,
a story from another individual or society or anything, but like me
mm,
actually venturing out without anyone else, truly in this search of what is my vision for my life? What do
yeah,
I foresee myself to be for the rest of the time that I'm here on this earth? And like, you know, I look back on my life and like how different would it be had I received that type of education?
yeah,
And in a way, like life has given me that education, but it's been a very long education here now, 40 years into this life. And I feel like I'm finally starting to understand what I came here to do, who I came
mm,
here to be. But like, if we could help men at earlier ages to learn that, to understand that, to figure that out in their teens and 20s, then being able to spend the majority of their lives operating from that place, man, this world would look so different.
totally, absolutely, absolutely. And this, like the rites of passages that you touched on, it. I think this is so important. So two aspects. What I see is like, first of all, you need solitary for yourself to connect with yourself, to understand yourself. You need solitary, no distraction. If you're in a group of other people with other people, then like the energies are too dense, so that you have not enough focus to be with you. And this is why it's important to have this rite of passage in early ages, as a teenager. Understand like, what is this here? What is this body? Again, becoming to the soma. To understand the connection of you, but also the connection you with nature, you from nature, you are nature. So in working with the elements, being like on a solo trip for a while, and exposed to the elements, and see how is this body working with the elements. And I think this is a very, very important part that everyone should undergo, to have more trust in yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
also to have a little bit more, not a little bit, but to have the full access to this deep, let's say, divine connection, that you are not just an individual um, running around, like you are connected. And you can sense that. I mean, I know that, of course, you work many years with going deeper into this divine connection, but like when you are out in the forest by yourself, like everyone
Totally
can
different.
sense that.
It's totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So just being outside in a forest, for example, or just going for a solo hike, immediately centers you. Like 1, 2, 3 days by yourself in nature, it's just complete shift, right? I think this is what is so important. So like the connection to the body, but also connection to the soul. So to have that, and when you are connected, then you come back to the tribe, and then you can basically interact from a very centered point, from a very connected point, and be a benefit to the tribe, instead of being someone who causes harm to the tribe, right? I love that. I totally agree. And yeah, with these initiations, rite of passages, I talked with some of my friends here who all have also children, and we were thinking about like to go out for for a hike with our children and do some kind of initiations for them. You know, that maybe they stay one night together on a campsite, and we just remove ourselves and just put our campsite several hundred meters away from them, and they just to witness how they interact. And maybe when they're a little bit older, I mean, my son is now 9 years old, so I think this is too early for him to do a solo trip.
Yeah.
But maybe, yeah, later in his years when he's 14, 15, I totally see that. I think that was like thinking of my youth. When I was 15, I was just numbing myself. I was just drinking and smoking weed. Like, just thinking about like having such an experience early age and have
Yeah.
some elder who could also guide me into that. There's another thing that is really missing in our Western cultures. We don't have elders anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And we don't like, and I don't mean elders in terms of like older people. It's like people who are carrying wisdom, who really can also see beyond just this conditioned way of life. Yeah. I feel that this comes more and more back into focus, and especially the work that we are doing with breath work, with somatic breath work. As soon as you're connecting with your body, and as soon as you create space, the first thing that pops up is just this awareness, this beautiful, beautiful presence of being here,
Yeah.
uh, and not being lost in the chit chat of your mind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, this idea of like venturing out into nature, and especially solo, like I last year went on my very first solo adventure, and it's something I wanted to do for a really long time, but was always like what's going to happen? Like if I'm out by myself, like, what if something goes wrong, or like, what if I get hurt? What if I get lost? And like, your mind starts running through all of these various different ideas of the ways in which this could go wrong. And I think that just speaks to like how our minds in this Western culture are like cultivated, right? Like it's cultivated to look for, and this is also just like archaic programming. We have survived throughout the millennia by being aware of the dangers of life. The downside of this is that it doesn't inherently program us to actually flip the switch and look at, well, what if the good things happen?
Mm.
What if this is actually one of like the greatest experiences that I ever have? What if everything goes perfect? And on that particular trip, like I pushed my body further than I've ever pushed my body on a hike, especially by myself. I went 14 miles in 2 days and did almost 7,000 feet of elevation gain, and had the best time.
Mm. Mm.
Horrible sleep. A storm rolled through because I had decided to set up camp on pretty much the top of this one mountain called Thunder Lakes. And I woke up to snow the next morning, and I had to hike off the mountain in snow, no longer being able to see the trail, but just following other people's footsteps that had gone before me. And yet the whole time I had a smile on my face because I was proving to myself what I was capable of.
Yeah. Yeah.
With every step that I took, with every breath that I took, it was like, man, I'm doing the thing. And I made it down. Again, just like had just the best time. And that set up, like I did another solo trip a couple of months ago, and I'm going to do another one this weekend, because it's like I'm realizing that this is actually something that's necessary for me in order to completely reset my cup. Like these last couple of weeks have been really busy with, traveling. My wife and I headed down to Austin for a family reunion that was amazing. But, we are little introverts now in our middle age, and living in the woods. We try to not leave the house as much as possible. Like we love our peace and quiet. So it's like being super social, and then we get back, and then we had friends come and visit from the East Coast. So again, we've got to be super social. And then I had two events back to back this
Mm.
weekend. And then
Mm.
4th of July is coming up, which I always help my father-in-law wire like a massive 4th of July fireworks show because he's a licensed pyrotechnician. And so it's like just thing after thing after thing after thing. And I can actually have the awareness that I'm almost running on fumes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also have the awareness of I know what the cycle for my system is when I get to that empty on my tank. So I had the conversation with my wife this weekend of like, hey, I think I need to go do a solo this weekend. I need to go reset. I need to go recharge my cup.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for her because she's like, do it. We've got nothing on the schedule this weekend. There's nothing pressing. Like, go do it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I'm going to go try and push myself even further. I got a 20-mile hike set up and scheduled,
Nice.
6,000 feet of elevation gain, 6,000 feet of descent. And I'm just going to go see how far I can go. Some of it might be covered in snow and maybe I can't go the whole way, but like continuing to do these hard things is
Mm.
actually what will lead to having an easier life. And I can't remember where this quote came from, but it's like easy decisions lead to a hard life, and
Mm.
hard decisions lead to an easy life.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, life is not meant to spend in a pond. Life is a river. And I resonate with that. And it's like, I mean, we created a society where safety is number one, and which is good, of course. I don't think that this is a bad way of creating a society. I mean, there are a lot of benefits and a lot of innovation can happen when we all feel safe, right? And not always be in the survival, but I think to have a little bit more trust also in the river of life, that like not everything needs to be understood, not everything needs to be um, pre-planned. Maybe just take yourself on a journey and let life decide where it ends, where this journey will bring you. And I mean, my personal life, I did so many jumps out of comfort zones and um, change the direction and just let life decide where I should end up. And this is not easy. I don't say like, "Wow, this is beautiful," and um, just follow the river, um, or let the river carry you. It's it's sometimes devastating. It's
Mm-hmm.
challenging. It
Yeah.
really brought me to situations where I really were close to give up. I mean, I share with you also, like I'm also in a phase now in my life where it's really difficult because I just let myself be in this situation, and I know why I'm here. I know why I'm in this situation. And yes, there are parts, of course, who say like, oh, like why did you choose that path, or why did you not created more safety in your life. But on the other side, I also have this voice in me who's like, yeah, but trust life,
Mm-hmm.
trust it. It's all a journey. It's just a journey.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with when we are doing breathwork session and talking about the expression of emotions. There are no good or bad emotions. Emotions are emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever happens in your life is happening in your life. It's just the question like, are you identified with it? Are you identified with emotion? And then it's hard. Or can you be present with the emotion? Can you be present with the circumstance that you are in, gaining that space? And I think this is beautiful, and to to allow yourself some challenges in life, and maybe just jump into the river. And yeah, and I mean, we now touched on two different aspects. I mean, the first one was about being in a group,
Hmm.
like having like a the brotherhood feeling, the brotherhood connection, belonging, and then the solo. Uh, I was I feel this is still also kind of ritual or a rite of passage
Yeah.
that you're also sharing with us. And I think this both is very much needed. It's again this, I need to be by myself to gain more connection again with myself and not lose myself, especially for people who are empathetic as we are, as we too are. Yeah. I mean, I can get easily lost in others' energy and others' presence. And so there's also work for me to be more and more connected with my own presence and not being drawn away from me. But I can only do that, of course, if I have also the space to connect with myself.
Yeah.
And this works best when you're in solitude. But it's not about to just be by yourself. It's not about being the monk the in the cave, right? Because it's also about participating with life. It's all about connection. It's all about being in relation.
So
So
I think,
yeah.
and I think that's like the paradox of life, right? Like the paradox that you're talking to right now is that, like, can we surrender to the unfolding of life and
Mm.
allow the river of life to take us where we want to, while also recognizing that we have to have equal action in what happens in that life. Like sometimes it's best to surrender to the river and allow and just flow with the river and allow it to carry you. But if you hear and see that there's a waterfall coming up,
Mm.
you better believe that you got to start putting in the effort to swim to the side and get the fuck out of the river. Because otherwise, you're going to go tumbling over that waterfall. And now it's total decimation at the bottom of it. And you got to
Mm.
start over again.
Yeah.
And I'd
Yeah.
rather fight the current of the river and get out than fall and fight being pummeled by the waterfall at the bottom and having to start all the way over again. So and I think that's why this like idea of having this group dynamic that you can grow and expand with, but then also having the ability to have your solitude where you can do the integration.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also this the phenomena that we have in a spiritual community, where it's really easy to go like in a spiritual gaslighting where it's like surrender to life, just surrender, don't do anything. No.
Hands off. I'm just letting
And
God
this is
drive here.
exactly, this is not what I meant, and this is definitely not what we are pinpointing here in our conversation, like when we're talking about the river, um, because it is about fully engaging with life,
Yeah.
but also allowing yourself to be in flow with life and not just seeking the next harbor and just seeking the next safety spot. That's what I think is, well, that's what I wanted to put emphasis on. So, yeah, sometimes situations in life are challenging. Not sometimes. I think we all have a lot of challenges in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to downplay them. I think everyone is experiencing, of course, different challenges, but every challenge is a challenge. And still to not lose yourself in the challenge and seek for the next shortcut, but maybe, yeah, be in the challenge, embrace the challenge, work with the challenge, which is hard, which is absolutely hard. And as I said, it could be devastating. But I think what comes out of it is growth, is being more connected. It's like this experience of the experience of being alive. If I just put myself in a cave, I can meditate. Yeah, I can be by myself. And I must admit, I have these tendencies. Like I am very, very much happy being by myself. I have this hermit style in me, but I also know that if I just be in a meditative state, then what's the reason to be here? Like, why do I have a body and that allows me to build relation, to feel you, to feel life, right? And I think this is a deep part or topic that we may also go in another episode. What actually means to be alive? What Why do we have this body, and what is consciousness actually doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now I
And
think,
I
I
don't have
mean,
the answer.
to like just speak to this a little bit, but not go fully into it, because we'd be here for probably another hour to discuss this. So maybe this is like the next podcast episode. But I think you're really touching on like this idea of like, what does it mean to actually start walking through a spiritual awakening, having a dark night of the soul, like
Mm.
moving through all of these various different phases that are attached. Like I've had numerous dark nights of the souls at this point. I've had numerous hermit phases. I've had numerous phases of like true expansion and just wanting to go out and like be a part of the all and do as much as I possibly can, that then inevitably leads into, you know, more hermit phase. And like, you know, I think that we're all going to move through these different cycles, but to speak to that, like just disappear into a cave and just meditating all day, like, although that sounds great, when you're not around other people, you don't get triggered. And although that might sound really great right now, if you're being triggered all the time, if you don't get triggered, you're not going to grow. Triggers are what give us those mirrors to look back at ourselves to see where can we expand. Where are we
Mm.
trying to maintain control over our life too much? Where are
Mm.
we not willing to meet life and surrender to it to see what wants to flow our way?
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's about unfolding, it's about experiencing. Like, also, we use this term growth a lot, and it's like one can also argue, like, why should we grow? Like, what's the reason to grow? Like, where should we grow to? Is there a goal? Like, is there an end point
Yeah.
to grow? And I think, like, maybe it's not just growth. Maybe it's just a continuum of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just experiencing it in a different way. And I think you can experience your life in multitude of different ways, right? And again, none of them are good or bad. And so this is the tricky part. But the thing is to take yourself out of it by just not participating in life. I mean, I said, I don't have an answer to it. It's like it feels right
Mm-hmm.
to experiencing
Yeah.
life. It feels in alignment to be in embedded in life. And so yeah, I think this is something that we are meant to be here, to experiencing life with our uniqueness, with our unique bodies.
Agreed. Yeah. Great topics today. You know,
Yes.
I think the one takeaway I'd love to leave all of the listeners with today is just the importance of finding a community that you can be a part of, a community that you can trust, a community that you can confide in, but a community you can also expand in, that will allow you the space to be able to meet yourself in a different capacity. You know, Maybe go outside your comfort zone and go join a jiu-jitsu gym, or maybe it's CrossFit, or maybe it's a hiking or running group, or whatever you're like really really interested in. I guarantee that there's a group out there close to you that's also interested in those same things, that can give you that space to be a part of a community that will allow you to push your edges a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you are interested in diving deeper with being in a brotherhood, just follow our podcast. And I'm really, really excited when we are coming up with our first retreats.
I
I
agree.
think this is something that we definitely have to plan and to bring out. I really feel this is something that is needed, that is needed to just be in community with men and experiencing some challenges with the elements and doing a lot of initiations and like rite of passages and just diving deep, deep, deep into our masculinity and touching our heart so that we are an open heart.
I agree. I agree. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Open Heart Brotherhood. That will be where we will release some of the information around our upcoming retreats, different events. We've got a lot in the mix.
Yeah. Yes, my dears, brother, thank you so much. Really, really enjoy these conversations with you, as you know. And yeah, let us know also in the comments if you have any topics that you are interested in that we should maybe touch on. Then yeah, just write us in the comments what you think about what topics Adam and I should dive deeper into. And until
Absolutely.
then, till the next episode, my dears. Love you, brother.
Love you
Have
too,
a
brother.
wonderful, wonderful evening.
Catch you on the next one.